Hey, friends. Man, that is so inspiring every time, isn't it, Steve? That intro.
It brings back so many happy memories.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Hey, welcome, everyone, to the Founders live stream. It's Friday. I don't know about you, but Steve, in London, it's a little bit later than it is here. Is it, what, 5 p.m.?
Yeah, 5 p.m.
Wow. It's finish time, man. You're finishing strong.
I'm doing overtime. Good. I'm putting in for double pay.
Do we have to pay you? Oh, my gosh. Let's make this fast. Let's get this over with. Hey, let's get into the first, because we've been keeping track and tallied this, and last week we had to miss. What is going on with your golf match? I know, because you always put that trophy just to the left of your ear, right behind you there.
Yeah.
And so what's happening this weekend?
Well, it's the semi-finals on Sunday, so obviously we'll be live on Sky Sports. You know, we had about 3.5 million for the quarterfinal. We're probably expecting more for the final, so feel free to catch me live on Sky Sports as I play for the semi-final, the President's Cup at the golf club. So yeah.
And so, what will that look like? Will it be you against one person? Will it be you?
It's singles match play. I'll have my caddy with me, and obviously all the TV crew will be there, and we're paying for a big cash prize. And it's so funny. For those of you who were athletes in your early careers, I used to love the buzz of adrenaline and competing. And in your language, I would always want to take the final shot, or give me the ball when the game's on the line. And of course, now my body is not the Olympic athlete it once was. So golf is about the only thing I get that rush. But real nerves do actually kick in, Jez. So I always say that I manage, in Harvey Specter language of suits, I always play the man. So I love playing match play because I can use mental disintegration. So that probably means I'm going to lose heavily. But I'm ever hopeful, and I have American confidence in my own ability. So I'll leave it there.
Hey, funny. A choke moment, state golf. I played golf in high school. Going to the last round, all I had to do was bogey the 18th hole to go to state. That's all I had to do. And the pressure got to me. I double bogeyed the 18th hole. I shanked in the woods.
How many years ago was that, Jeremy, now?
Oh, yeah, that was 19. Yeah, it was a long time. In 1989. So
next time you're over, you can sit on my couch and we'll talk it through and see if we can get some inner healing for that. That'll be great. I never remember anything when I lost.
I do. Yeah. Well, hey, lots of other things going on. Let's talk about the world here. We've got this thing. I don't know if you've heard of this pandemic called COVID. I don't know if it's reached you guys or not over in the UK.
Oh my goodness. Don't even go there, Jez.
Are you doing double masks? Are you wearing 2 masks or no?
There was a time when I think that we were pretty united in what we thought was a good way of responding to it. I think right now there is a absolute rift down the middle of society where you've got some that want to follow the scientists and we want to lock down forever and no one's ever going out again until it's gone. And then there's the others that go, guys, look, the cure is way worse than the illness, in that millions of people are going to lose their jobs. And the one thing I always say is that I hope there isn't the level of economic illiteracy that I think there is. So I kind of go, guys, the only way you have a first-class welfare state is to have a first-class economy that actually means businesses are creating profit from which tax can be taken and jobs for other people. So having lots and lots of people become unemployed and businesses go bust and reduce their profits for those that survive. But it's okay because the government can just print money, Jeremy. So, there we go. There's a magic money tree. Jeremy Corbyn pioneered it first. Jeremy's socialist vision of the future of investment now looks like small change compared to the amount of money that our country is currently borrowing. And in a way that no economist has ever fully understood, is the Bank of England are currently printing money and lending it to the British government to give to its people. So we'll see how that one goes. But historically, that doesn't tend to end well. But I just go, I wish I could apply the same economic principles to my own personal finances. And Helen can maybe print some money and I'll go and spend it. That'd be awesome.
Well, and which is the great topic. You know, we've got the presidential election, we've got all of these factors, but today we thought it'd be fun to talk to all of the 4 million listeners here about entrepreneurship and really what that means and what the economy, what the current situation, how that's affecting entrepreneurship, what it actually is. Even entrepreneurship, if you're in the corporate world, talking about what that looks like, entrepreneurship, or if you're more a nonprofit, social entrepreneurship. But we want to talk about it because it's really who we are. It's what we're about. Each of us have started a number of companies. We've been entrepreneurs for a long time. I've been in that space a lot. Steve has. So we believe in it, and we thought it would be a fun conversation. But you had a really interesting. You heard some content that was interesting.
Yes.
Use that as our basis to have a conversation.
Yeah, as you know, Jeremy, there are 3 laws of plagiarism, which basically says, as my good friend Jeremy Kubicek was sharing only last week, is stage 1. The second is, as I was reading in my study some thoughts from a learned scholar, and the third one is, as I was reflecting myself personally over coffee, that's how ideas go from belonging to someone else to suddenly belonging to you. So this is one of those rare occasions where I had a keynote from a lady called Pippa Malmgren, who's basically was an economic advisor to George W. Bush and Ronald Reagan, and she has lived over in England, in London, for I think 30 years now, although her accent is still. And she was talking this keynote about why she believed that actually COVID was actually accelerating an entrepreneurial revolution, and that actually it's probably the first really optimistic view of the economic future I'd heard. Because what she was saying was that the social contract between the state and its citizen is being challenged. Everyone usually knew the rules. It's like, well, you do this much work and you can retire at 65 or whatever it might be. Whereas actually everything is being broken down at the moment. No one's quite sure what the future holds. And everybody, even in little old Britain, which usually are not necessarily the most entrepreneurial, as I know you found out, everyone is really going, I'm not sure I trust my family's future or my future to a corporate or to the government. I'm actually going to take some responsibility, and I'm going to actually have my own little business. I'm going to have my own entrepreneurial opportunity, because actually I'd rather fail when it was my fault than be effectively a statistic that is simply let go or cast aside in the world that's there. So it was a really interesting and obviously, as a Brit, you see, I always say that the British are an incredibly entrepreneurial culture, but only when we're under real pressure. So the rest of the time, we quite like the state to look after us. But usually in times of famine and war or pandemic, you'll find that actually we can be a very, very entrepreneurial little bunch when our backs are to the wall. So I know you're very entrepreneurial as Americans. So talk to us a little bit about that. Well, it gave me some hope for the future, Jez.
Totally. Well, let's talk about what entrepreneurship is and isn't.
Yeah.
I think it actually has a funny term, especially in other cultures. So we'll get into it. So entrepreneurship is just simply the ability to start a company or start your own enterprise that has a profit, that actually, or it has some means of employing people. You have an idea, you want to put it into action, you form an organization to make it happen. So every company started as an entrepreneurial venture. They had to start somewhere. That's what's so funny, because everyone wants to work for Apple or for Google, but did they want to work for Apple or Google when they were in their parents' garage? They all started as an entrepreneurial venture in a garage of a parent or in a dorm room or in somewhere. It started somewhere. So the bigs were an entrepreneurial venture that just became big. So it's so funny how people view entrepreneurship, and sometimes it can be a positive or negative. In my case, I've started or formed 24 entrepreneurial companies or ventures. So if you think about those and what those are, some of those were very, very small. Some of those don't exist. A lot of them don't exist anymore. Some of them continue, and they formed out of an idea. Some of them formed inside of a company, and we took them outside. Some of them formed just by an idea. I'm working on one right now with my son. that is so fun, and it's an entrepreneurial venture. It can start very small. It may be a small business. It may become something someday. You just never know, and that's really the entrepreneurial makeup. But we'll get into what you have to be entrepreneurial. But let's talk about culturally. Why do you think it's different? Like, how is it in, like, my experience in England was, if I told people I was an entrepreneur, which I did for the first 3 months and then stopped, it was viewed with such, it was like, oh, a car salesman. Oh my goodness, get away from me. No. And it was like shunned. I might be overly generalizing it, but in America, it's revered.
Yes.
You're starting it. And there's like, risk is different in America than it is in England. Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, good question. I think it's cultural. Well, that's an easy answer, isn't it, really? And I think you have to understand the prevailing culture of a society to understand how it views risk-taking. So the best analogy I always give is to go, if you were Swiss, Jeremy, and you grew up in a Swiss village, entrepreneurship is the most dangerous thing you could ever do, because to fail in a business and go bust would scar your family's reputation for 3 generations. So there's a reason why the Swiss focus on banking, watches, and chocolate, because they are by nature pretty conservative. So that's one end of the continuum. Whereas I would say America is the most entrepreneurial country in the world. You took all of the entrepreneurs and criminals from Europe, and basically that's what kind of got you off and running. And you had
with entrepreneur right there.
Actually, you're wrong. We sent the criminals to Australia. I forgot. So it's kind of. But what happens, you see, is the British culture. You have to understand class. So that's the prevailing culture that you need to understand. So the most successful people don't have to work. Their land, they manage their estates. Then you have the professional classes. So we value intellectual capital more than we value financial capital. So it's not how much money do you have, it's how did you make it.
Yeah.
Preferably you didn't have to make it because you inherited it.
Yep.
But then we tend to idolize the what I would call the classic intellectual professions. And so therefore an entrepreneur, well, if you started a law firm or an accountancy business, or you were an academic who maybe had taken a piece of your research and created a business from it, then you'd be okay. But entrepreneur sounds a little bit like Del Boy, who's kind of, selling this little back of the street, make a few dodges, not paying your taxes on time. So there's a misnomer.
Yeah.
And actually entrepreneurs are like, yeah, that's nice. America, they stand up and cheer.
Well, in America, there was nothing. Right.
Yeah.
So we started, especially where I live. I mean, I live in a state was formed in 1907.
Yeah.
So you put that in perspective of England, and you think of 1907, there was nothing. So you had to start something. And so there is this attitude of who says you can't. And there's a pioneering spirit. So to be an entrepreneur, you really have to be passionate about something. You have to have the ability to create something. Then you have the perseverance to actually see it through. And with that perseverance comes ingenuity, because you have to be resourceful enough to go, I don't know, let's try this. I don't know, let's try this. And so that pivoting can be perceived as dodgy because it looks like you're always changing, when in essence, you're just simply tacking to where's the wind. And wherever the wind is, we move forward and move on. So that is the makeup of an entrepreneur. And that resourceful ingenuity with passion and perseverance gives you the opportunity to create something that will employ people or not. And it's fascinating.
And I think, so the reflection on that, Jez, which is really interesting, is entrepreneurship is incredibly challenging to do, because it's all on you and you're usually risking quite a lot. So people always look at the success and, they complain that Bill Gates isn't giving enough money away, and they go, oh, look at Jeff Bezos. Well, the reality is what they haven't seen is where it started in the risk profile. And that's the reason why Pippa was saying she thinks there is an entrepreneurial revolution, is because actually for the first time, for a long time in Europe, or certainly in Britain, people have to make it work. So there's no safety escape. There's no, well, maybe I'll just go and get a job with a corporate. if you think of America, when they landed in America, and like you're saying, that pioneering spirit, they either were entrepreneurial or they starved. There's always been in your system, there's always interesting issues as we come to elections about, socialism and the welfare state in America, because in the end, part of your DNA as a nation was you were leaving the state system from Europe and basically go, it's on me. I'll make it happen. I want to be rewarded for it. I'll look after my family. I will do what's needed. Small government is good because that's where you started from. So I'm not saying one or the other, but entrepreneurship always flourishes most effectively when you have to make it happen. If you have a fallback position, it usually means when it gets really tough, and it will, you'll be tempted to give up and take an easier option, whether the state pays for you or whether you take a more corporate, safe environment there. So that's why I think it's an interesting moment, because we really are in that place where a lot of people have no backstop.
And so let's talk about that, and to start a business and why COVID would do that. I think you're right. I mean, it gives people options, because what's happening is, let's say someone was laid off, or let's say they have a lot more time because they're working from home.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they're watching more videos, more content, they're seeing other people, and then they're almost reevaluating to go, do I want to keep doing this? I know for me, I mean, in our business, speaking, it's all gone online, and that's a part of what I did, a percentage outside of just the core business of Giant. And all of a sudden, it's made me go, do I want to keep doing that and be on the road and so on and so forth? So now we've got time to reevaluate. We're forced, some people are forced into early exits. They've been giving a severance. What do I do for this money? I can't tell you, probably 15, 20 people that I'm helping right now know, what do I do with my severance, and what do I do with this? And I have about 5 or 6 that I'm actively helping figure out how to start a business. So it's naturally in that time period.
Yeah, and I'm just glad for them that you've already sold all the lots on the prairie plantation. Otherwise, that they would presumably, here's a great opportunity to invest your severance package.
I want to clarify, it's not a plantation. It's a neighborhood. It's a neighborhood. Those are words.
Forgive me, Jeremy. That's so funny.
It's a community of 20 homes.
I spent too much time in South Carolina. You'll have to forgive me on that.
So
that's really good.
No, you're absolutely right. And so what happens now is that you've got an option. If you're listening to this or a part of this, you have an option to go, hey, what does entrepreneurship look like for you? It could be a side hustle. It could be something you do with a spouse. It could be something, or it could be inside an organization. There's an opportunity to start a new, entrepreneurship is a real thing. So entrepreneurship is just simply the ability to see something and to take the risk to try to create something that never existed before. And that's what I absolutely love. And that's what Steve and I have been doing in the form of Giant, in the form of content, in the form of systems and programs and all of that. So.
And I think the reason why it's a really fun time to be an entrepreneur is because if you think of the old days in the industrial world, the barrier to entry was always capital. You always needed a lot of money. You need to buy offices, plant, machinery, whatever it was you were going to manufacture. Whereas in the new world, because of the internet and because of the World Wide Web, you'd be amazed how many people have moved their business online, or they're selling things, or whatever it might be. So all of a sudden, the traditional barriers to entry, where the bank want you to put your house up as a guarantee against a big loan, and then you hope people buy what you're doing. Everyone's a lot lighter, a lot more nimble. People are working from home. It's really that very, very agile, because you and I found, didn't we, that the chances of you as an entrepreneur, when you sit down and ask the question, okay, what do I really want to do, is often the one that is the passion. But you think of, well, what strategies or product offerings are we going to start with that we think the world might buy? Our experience, I think, was, if I think of those first 6 that we came up with, I'm not sure we're doing any of them now. But it was almost, you were very wise, and you said, Steve, if we come up with 6 things we could offer, probably one of them will be a home run, One of them will do okay. 4 will probably never get off the ground, but you never know until you actually have a go, and you actually then have to test, well, what's the market, what's the people actually looking for? Because a lot of passionate entrepreneurs in the beginning, because they're passionate about something, doesn't necessarily mean that automatically translates into an offering that the world is looking for.
I also have found that most entrepreneurship isn't trained inside the systems, inside kids. So like in my family, with my kids, with 3 kids, by the time they were 15, all of them have had to have started a company, or they had to work for a successful entrepreneur, one of the others. Or so all of them did. Addie started a little film business where she would do little projects for people. Will started a car detailing business. And then Kate she was a nanny and started her little nanny business. And so all of them had to operate it like a business, had to think of it. So it was trained in them. And then I had an apprenticeship track where I asked them the question, do you want to be a job creator or have a job? And that started this like, what's the difference? But it's not trained in our cultures, because it's trained to go to work for someone or to expect something. So what's interesting, like for instance, there's a famous business school, and this is going to be funny to say this because they may get some flack back, but it's University of Arkansas, the Sam Walton, which is Walmart. Their business school is an entrepreneur's business school. And so we went to visit it because Will wanted to be in entrepreneurship. And we went there, and they said in the session, they go, 92, we're so proud of our entrepreneurial school. 92% of all students get jobs directly out of college. Wait. Like, here's me in the back going, hang on. How many students start a business? What? No, you're missing it. 92%. That's astounding. Get a job. And we found out that 92% get a job with companies that work for Walmart. So the entrepreneurial school was actually Sam Walton gets celebrated for Walmart, which is an entrepreneurial venture who's now become one of the biggest companies in the world ever. And so now you get to come work for him. and so Will saw it too, and he went to the University of Oklahoma Entrepreneurial School, which is a renowned entrepreneurial program, and because he wants to be a job creator. And so it's just that it's a different mindset, but it doesn't.
I think this is so much like our home patch, because we love this stuff so much. I always have a deep suspicion of anyone who's actually working at a college, university, teaching entrepreneurship, because part of me goes like, if you are a true entrepreneur, the chances of you wanting to lecture every day and teach entrepreneurship is limited. And in the same way, Jez, I'm betraying all my thing. I meet an awful lot of people who are allegedly a master in business administration, who are most certainly not a master in business administration. So it's like, if you want to be an entrepreneur, the best thing you can do is, like you just said, is you got to start. I mean, Izzy, who's my 20-year-old, she's in the NFP. So if connector's high, it's easier. So she's over here at the moment. There's just no jobs for kids coming out of university. Izzy has already started her own creative media branding agency. I'm like, I am so proud. Now, the fact that we're entrepreneurs and we're prepared to put a little bit of expertise and wisdom and a little bit of financial support in, but what we know is teaching kids how to run their own business, in some senses, they may at some stage during their career go and work for someone else or be bought out or whatever it might be. But I'm absolutely convinced that basically if the average child, they're saying today, will live till they're about 99, they'll have 13 different careers. One of them at some point, they will want to run their own culture and they will want to basically be a job creator. So it's not we're saying it's not we don't agree with the other, but I wish, and part of what we're doing is if you can teach your kids how to think that way, then they'll always have work in the new world, because in the end, the corporate does not owe them a living. And that's the thing I think that people are finding right now.
And with us, we've just taken content, fresh ideas. We built our own content to build a business that then now is being traded at such a degree that we basically have the benefit of doing that over and over again. So the fun part of, if you think about voices, it is natural for the future-oriented voices to see entrepreneurship differently than the present-minded voices. So if you think of the connectors and the pioneers, they will see, and even the creatives, creative pioneers, they'll see the future, and so a creative connector may want to be in a social justice or nonprofit or a marketing agency, so it's easier for the 27%. But at the same time, it's very doable for the guardians. My son is a guardian pioneer. It's just a guardian pioneer starting a business is going to look different than a connector, creative pioneer starting a business. So and nurturers, the nurturers who start a business, oh my goodness, because there's credibility attached to it. So there's a benefit for every voice, but we do recognize. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, I think what I would say is anybody can be an entrepreneur, but you are more likely to succeed as an entrepreneur if you know your own superpowers and know what you bring at your best. And I guess we've always said that as well, team is so important. It's quite hard to do it on your own. If there's somebody you can do it with, then actually having a partner is, I would say, one of the first things when people say to me, I want to be an entrepreneur, I go, is there somebody who has complementary superpowers to you? Because nobody gets everything. And in some senses, actually partnering with someone who's just like you is often a challenge because they have the same superpowers, which means you have the same areas of omission. But that's why you and I were so good, because you're so talented and you carried me along the way. So we were a perfect mix, Jez, really.
Oh my God. So and what we'll do, let's do next time. Let's talk about pass the baton, and we'll actually walk through. Yeah, but we'll walk through how stages of starting and how that works. In this case of this company, this is one of the issues. In fact, we probably also save, because we're running out of time. We'll probably also save barriers, the resistance to entrepreneurship, and pass the baton. And in one, Tiffany here talking about one of them. There's something called the golden handcuffs. That keeps people stuck to companies because of benefits. And I run it all the time. And I have this little exercise I walk them through to actually talk about needs and wants and benefits and the price of benefit, or the cost of benefits. And most people stay in dead-end, soul-crushing, burnout jobs because of the fear of their insurance or fear of benefits in that regard. So we'll get to that one next time, Tiffany, in more specificity. But any last comments, thoughts from you in the last 30 seconds, Steve-O?
I think that the first time I've really begun to look at post-COVID with excitement and hope for the future here in Britain through the rising up of an entrepreneurial generation. And actually, because the Brits only ever do that when we've got our backs to the wall, and we have our backs to the wall right now. And I just love the fact that actually we can be part of equipping a generation of entrepreneurs and encourage them on the way, sharing what we've learned, but more importantly as well, giving them tools that we wish we'd had. And I think that's part of the giant toolbox. If you think about it, it's really got the best of our failure codified. So actually for any entrepreneur, the giant toolbox is almost like a treasure trove, because it's really saying, hey, in people like Jeremie, you have an unbelievable entrepreneur. I've tagged along for the ride and done the best I can. But fundamentally, there's an awful lot of tools that every entrepreneur needs if they're really going to grow something which lasts and flourishes and is a real reward for your hard work. So I love this topic. I'm looking forward to mining it out.
And just a special call up to all the Brits to go, hey, this is to Steve's point, this is a great opportunity. And I'll throw the Scots into that. I love the Scottish entrepreneurial, just the ability and the desire, but to go for all of the Brits in general, this is an opportunity to really thrive. For anyone listening in any part of the world, and we do have a lot of friends in a lot of different countries, but the opportunity to think about this. Well, who says you can't?
Yeah.
Who says you can't? If there is a passionate dream in there, consider it. You can always do it as a side hustle. You can always do it as, you could do something that becomes a partnership. You could do something, or you celebrate and encourage and help an entrepreneur get something off the ground. So it doesn't have to be you starting something, but we're going to spend a couple of weeks talking about how to get your ideas off the ground. What does entrepreneurship really look like? How do you actually set it up for success? How do you overcome barriers? What's the vision of it? All those things. So looking forward to it. And Steve-O, man, make it happen this weekend, dude. Yeah. Hey, my words, my phrase for you.
Come on.
Don't screw it up.
I will do the best I can, Jeremy, and see what happens. I'll let you all know next week.
That means break a leg, same connotation.
Yeah. I wouldn't be able to walk if I did that, so never mind.
Yeah. All right. Hey, man, good luck.
Thanks, Jez.
Thanks, everyone. See you. Bye-bye.